We have got a great DSO panelist session here for you right now. And I am going to introduce right now all of our panelists, starting with Darren Akapon. Darren helped scale the Bowflex brand from $50 million to $450 million in annual revenues over an 8-year span. He transitioned to the dental space in 2014 as the head of business development for Stratus Dental's DSO division and joined the DEO in 2017 and became partner and EVP of sales, growing the mastermind group from 20 members to over 300 members, pretty significant. And now with over 1,400 represented locations and a sales figure of $2.2 billion in combined revenues. That's a big deal. His role consists of interviewing and selecting members for the DEO membership, heading up strategic partnerships with sponsors, and assisting with overall company direction. Are we? Darren is right here. Give it up for Darren, everybody. Darren Akapon. All right, Brian Kaleo is coming up next. Brian is the director of Dikema's Dental Service Organizations Group. He's been serving the dental industry for over 25 years and is widely regarded as one of the foremost authorities in the United States on DSO formation, DSO business structures, DSO-related mergers and acquisitions, and the full array of regulatory compliance requirements. Certified public accountant, business consultant, author, and inventor, he has 20 years of experience working with dental practices and groups. He is the co-founder of Patient Prism, an award-winning call tracking software that leverages the power of artificial intelligence to review every new patient phone call that doesn't end in a booked appointment. Analyze that conversation and provide fast call coaching so the dental team can win back that potential patient during a follow-up call. Never let them get away. You know, the little one that got away, big one that got away, they're all big ones, right? Don't let them get away. All right. And so Amal has 5 patents to his credit, and he is also one of the most well-known and highly followed thought leaders in dentistry and shares his knowledge abundantly via social media platforms. Amol Nurgukar is right here. Hello. Okay, they're sneaking in here on me. I like that. Okay. And finally, we have Tammy Philippiak, a dental hygienist with 34 years of experience within general and specialty practice, as well as educational and management settings. Philippiak has been in a DSO clinical leadership role for the past 17 years. She's a strategic partner within the organization to support execution of organizational initiatives in support of 600 plus, over 600 dental offices in 30 states. Wow. She's a member of the American Dental Hygienists Association since 1986. She served as president in 2017 to 2018, as the chair of the ADHA Institute of Oral Health in 2018 to 19. Philippiak served, I always just say Tammy, I don't know why they put Philippiak in here, but our dear sweet Tammy right here, she has served the ADHA in a wide range of areas, including as a member of the task force that revised the standards for clinical dental hygiene practice and held leadership positions within the Wisconsin Dental Hygienists Association, including a term as the organization's president. She's been recognized for her leadership with numerous awards, including the Johnson & Johnson ADHA Award for Excellence in Dental Hygiene and ADHAs. Okay, so Tammy Philippiak, she's a Badger from Wisconsin. Hello. So let our panel begin, except we got to bring out the man of the hour, of course, Mr. Everything, Mr. Dental Festival himself. Can we bring out Elijah? Where are you? He's coming. He's coming. There's that music.
It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. How's everybody doing? I want to tell you guys, this is not a fire happening. This is smoke. That was a big deal that just happened. Should we do that again? Should we re-imitate that? That walk on? I didn't even know that. That was a surprise. Thank you, guys. So first off, the people that are here in this room, with us virtually and here in person. I want to thank you for coming. There's a lot of places you could be, like the beach, but you chose to come here. So I want to let you know that I really appreciate you. And next thing is I really appreciate you for. You're representing a large part of dentistry, and each and every one of you are amazing individuals that I had the pleasure to get to know in the past few years, some of you, few months. And I can't tell you how much I respect you, and you're changing the world of dentistry in the best way. So thank you guys so much. So I get to ask them amazing questions. You guys get to listen. I would also say this. If you are watching virtually right now, if you could please take the video that's streamed live on the Dental Festival page and YouTube and LinkedIn, and I want you to share it with about 2 to 3 different groups. And after you share it, that means more people will have awareness of this event that's taking place. And I just want to thank you guys again for understanding the value of what you guys do and taking that part of the industry and doing a lot of good things with it. So we'll start off with question number 1, and I'll start on this side if it's okay. And we'll just work our way here and work our way there, all right? So what are the top 2 challenges of running a DSO group?
I mean, from my perspective in my role, I would say many of you would not be surprised today to hear it's staffing. I think, that's just something that I think would highlight, again, the role that the DSO can play in being a great place for clinicians to work because of so many of the things that we do offer, which I think we'll talk a little bit more about maybe in another question. But I would say, building consistency in systems is the other thing that brings a real value in our environment. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about that too in the varying areas that, that impacts clinicians and I think brings a level of confidence to everybody as a provider to be able to provide great care for patients, know that you're working in an organization that is taking care of you as an individual and providing, a number of different and important support services.
Thank you. Mo.
Yes, sir.
What are the top 2 challenges of running a DSO group?
The top 2, I think from my perspective, what I see, not just through patient prism of what we do in terms of phones and communication, one of the big things is how do you get the right people on the bus in your organization and how do you keep them inspired, right? It's very hard as organizations grow larger, the problems that you face in a single dental office start multiplying. And the owners of, in a single dental office, you have an owner that can talk to everybody, say hi, hello. But when you have 10 offices, 1,500, 1,000 offices, there's no way to touch everybody. So it becomes really important, as Tammy said, you've got to have systems in place, but to get people inspired around a single cause and to get them to adhere and wear the culture on their sleeve. So culture is a challenge. One of the big things that you can do to get an organization to succeed is to instill a great culture. But it's hard to do it at scale because how do you get people to do that? So that's, I think, challenge number 1 is inspiration and getting everybody in the right place, these right seats at the right time and inspired to do well. I think the second challenge the industry as a DSO is facing is capacity, is do we have, I mean, there's, the dental industry is so big and it's highly underutilized. Right now, only 50% of Americans have seen a dentist. So how do you, as capacity increases, how do you treat more patients? How do you get them to really come into the dental office? How do you get them to accept treatment? And how do you get them to, live the best lives? So those are the 2 challenges the DSOs are dealing with right now. And they're doing a fairly good job thinking about these problems, teams, getting inspiring teams and figuring out how to really address the issue of getting access to care to as many people as possible.
Thank you. Brian, you're up.
Well, I don't know if this is a top two. It's always dangerous to try to make, the top one, top two. But the challenge is right now, the DSO industry, you got to get along with your affiliated doctors, because under the DSO model, the doctors have to own basically the dental practices, and the DSO can't practice dentistry, can just provide non-clinical support services. So it's really like a loose affiliation partnership. No one's more important than the other, and you got to get along with your doctors or you're going to have a problem. Two, you got to put patients in the seats. It's a lot bigger discussion than this answer to the question. A mall, for example, has great tools to get patient retention and people to come back, all kinds of neat artificial intelligence. Obviously, Darren at the DEO does a terrific job of, building infrastructure and practices so they can retain their patients, but you got to put patients in the seats. Three, you got to follow the regulations. If you don't follow the regulations, you can get in serious trouble. Lots of regulations affect the DSO industry. Four, you got to attract and retain talent. Right now, we have an acute staffing shortage nationwide. In particular, the DSO industry is no different. You got to be able to attract and retain talent, particularly with dentists, because no matter how well funded you are and how great your business plan is, only dentists can practice dentistry. And if you can't bring dentists into your organization, you can't expand. And then the final thing I would say is, Amal touched on this, culture. Okay, it's really important that you differentiate your organization from everybody else. Everybody, for example, Tammy's boss, Steve Bilt, has a great quote at Smile Brands. He says he's never seen an organization that didn't espouse values that sound wonderful, but when time comes for execution, what actually happens often is different from the espoused values. So you've got to have espoused values that are really, really good, and then you got to walk the walk, and you have to implement your culture. And that's not two things, but that's sort of the key to the challenges facing the DSO industry right now.
Thank you, Brian. All right, Darren.
I'll just add to all of that. We all on this panel know Tammy's boss really well. And how is it that at, 5,000 or 6,000 employees, I know their mission statement is smiles for everyone. And I would challenge you in the audience, if you have a team of less than 50, and I took them into different interrogation rooms and asked them, what is your mission? Would they be able to say the same thing, or would they say different things? I would venture to say they'd say different things. And so that's number one. What is the vision? Do we have 100% alignment? Because you could have really talented people rowing in the wrong direction from one another.
Thank you.
It's more important to go in the right direction than to go quickly in the wrong. So that's fundamental, especially when you're scaling.
We're going to go ahead and start you off this time, and we'll go back this way. What events should I attend to learn more about emerging groups and DSOs?
He runs the premium conference. Obviously at the DEO, we do a lot of things emerging group based. So if you're going from one mega location to your second satellite and beyond, we're a good fit for you. We have another event coming up in Orlando next month. And then the ADSO is an event that actually all three of my panelists just came from in Vegas. And that's kind of like the association that lobbies for group practice. And there's a lot of great education, kind of like the ADA for groups, if you will. And so those three, in my opinion, are the three main conferences that one should attend.
Thank you.
Same question. Well, in case anybody, I'll take the suspense out of it. The Dikema conference would be the first one that I would suggest that everybody attend. And I know everybody except Tammy, for reasons that escape me, attended our conference this year. It was really, really good. We had 1,400 people there, and really all segments of the DSO industry were there. Elijah, I think we're in the works of a deal. You might be driving that big DJ bus there next year. So I think, seriously, we raised $1.1 million of sponsorship money. We put it all back into the conference. Don't make a penny on it. Had 1,400 attendees from all over the DSO industry. If you're wondering from an educational standpoint what the industry is about, how your organization might fit, are you going to affiliate with a DSO? Are you potentially going to create a DSO, what the best practices are, that would hands down be one I would want to attend. Darren, since they've taken over the DEO, the Dental Entrepreneur Organization, a few years ago, he has a world-class event. I think he's going just to one event a year now and some smaller events, but Darren has an absolute world-class event. He's coming up in Orlando. It's not too late to register, I think, if it's not sold out. It might not be too late to register for that in November. And then the ADSO that we came from is is another organization that has a really big following in the DSO industry and a lot of really good content there. Those would be kind of the top three. And, you know, Henry Schein had an event too that if they put it on this year, it could be a good idea to attend as well.
Wow. And I'm going to give a little feedback there. If I were to go to one conference the entire year and I was in that space, even though I'm not in that space like you guys, I would go to Dikema. I couldn't believe what came out of that conference. So the man himself is sitting on stage. This one right here, Darren, who has another conference, right? Amul, Tammy. There's so many different organizations represented here. Aspen came, Heartland came, Dental Care Alliance came, right? DEO, Dikema. That was going to one conference with all the right people. If there was one conference that I would go to, that's the one I would go to. Really, it was that good for me. Amul.
Here's my comments about it. I echo the exact same, I will say the exact same thing. So let me say something different. What you get from going to these conferences is a true abundance of spirit. You will see people that want to help you grow whatever your goals are, whether you are a vendor trying to sell into the dental industry, whether you're a consultant that's trying to figure out what your next step should be. The amount of abundance of thinking and thought process that goes in these conferences, as Elijah said this morning, you can talk to the CEOs of billion-dollar dental support organizations at a bar having a drink, and they will share with you their challenges, right? So sometimes, you know, I remember going to these conferences when I was starting my business, and I realized that I got so many great ideas from people who have paved the path, and they're abundantly willing to share that path. So don't think about this as the word DSO and oh my God. We are all in the same industry. We're all here to serve our patients, right? At the end of the day. So there's no such thing as this industry versus that industry. It's the same industry, it's dentistry. So I encourage you guys to look into these conferences, go there, because one idea could change your entire life. And it did mine in many ways. I learned a lot of ideas from people who have done, not my business, but other businesses. And you learn from these entrepreneurs that have run. And you might just stay as one single practice, but that's okay. Even if you get an idea that can help you grow and scale your organization the way it is, that's worth it many, many times over. So I encourage you guys to look these conferences up and go and attend and see for yourself the magic that is spun during those few days there.
And I might just take a slightly different perspective and say, if you can't get to an event, then talk to a person. Because I know any of us sitting here on this stage would be happy to talk to anybody about, you know, the individual organization that I work with or organizations that each of you have worked with in the DSO space. And I think the commitment that we make is helping to teach and educate about and dispel the myths, maybe even to say, about the industry. You know, I had a great opportunity the year that I was president of ADHA, you know, to interact with dental hygienists throughout the year and not only talk about my role in the support organization that I worked in, but more importantly about what are the opportunities that exist for clinicians to grow professionally, right, and personally within this environment, you know, that we call the DSO space. And so talk to a person, reach out to somebody. It is, I tell my own kids this, we're in their 20s, like you have access to everybody just through platforms like LinkedIn and you know, Instagram, Facebook, all these places where I never, when somebody reaches out, you know, we're all checking those things. And so you will never find me say, I don't have time to talk to you about. Because we want to talk more about our organizations and this industry.
If I just one, Elijah, if I might, I can't believe I forgot this. I'm on the board of directors of Women in DSO this year, and I was talking to Tammy about that backstage earlier. We're having a brand new event this year, March 9th through the 11th at the Aria in Las Vegas. So in terms of top events this year, I can't believe that I messed up and didn't mention that when you gave me the opportunity. But Women in DSO is having their first ever summit, March 9th to 11th. And no, it's not just for women. It's going to be a great event, great conference, and I really strongly encourage everybody to take a look at that one as well.
Absolutely. And Brian gave a little teaser about this coach bus.
Yeah.
He announced it before I did. So now I got to tell you. So I'm getting I'm not getting, it's already on its way here. It will be here on Monday. I'm getting a Class A 40-foot RV. And I will be driving to the major conferences across the country, and I'll have a caravan of attendees that are going to drive right behind me. We'll make a couple stops on the way to all these conferences, and the first one I'm so excited about is DEO. So I'm going to DEO with that. It's going to make its a first appearance because it was supposed to be here by today, and it's not here. It'll be here Monday. It's okay. But the first place that we're going to take that bus is going to be DEO in November in Orlando. I'm super excited for that. And here's the thing. I am intentionally disrupting the industry and doing different things, and I love music, right? And I love people. And we will be driving there, doing live videos, streams the whole way there, and bringing value to all the conferences. And so I couldn't be more excited to make this happen. When I get off the bus and everybody gets there, I will be DJing many events, not Darren's yet, that's my goal next year or the year after, but I'll be DJing the events and hoping to MC some of their events as well. And I'm super excited to bring this out to the industry. It's something that I wanted to do for a really long time. And while that bus is actually gonna be parked when I'm not using it in Florida, we're actually gonna rent it out so it's gonna become a business. So we're gonna rent out the Dental Festival bus as well. So I'm very excited and I can't wait to go to DEO next month. All right. With the growth of the DSO space, what things are important for the audience to know to help them better understand the model? Start with you, Tammy.
Yeah, as I alluded to just a few minutes ago, it's a little bit of myth busting, right? And I think the important things to know are, and I encounter this a lot in conversations with hygienists, or we'll see it in social media spaces, that word quota. I will tell you that, in the organization that I work in, we have a team of support for all of our teams, right? And so there's professional support. It isn't, always about the numbers as you might sometimes hear. I think we have to be a bit vulnerable and talk about that because I think those are a lot of the misperceptions that exist. Clinicians are making clinical decisions, business support services are being provided by experts, within each organization. And, at Smile Brands where I work, as you guys said, there's a very, very strong commitment to culture. There is, continued discussion about lots of different things. We have our Safe Smile space. We have Smiles for Everyone. We talk about G3, which is greeting, guiding, and gratitude. These are all fundamental principles of our organization. And so I would say if you want to learn more, then talk to somebody who's in that space, because I think there's just a lot of misinformation out there, Elijah, that, we need to start clearing up. We really need to start clearing it up.
Thank you.
The DSOs are really trying. I mean, it's an evolution of an industry, but where they are today is they're really trying to solve some of the fundamental problems and find solutions on ways to improve the patient experience, improve the patient journey. Right? As an independent practice, maybe we didn't have time to think on our business, because we were constantly working in the business. And at the DSO level, what they have been able to do, because there is an organization that manages that doesn't necessarily clinically manage it, but manages the other functions in the DSO. They get to think on the business. So they look at data in ways that a practice wouldn't look at. They look at metrics in a way that really allows for change to happen in a positive way. And it's not always about profits. It really is. There's the DSO industry, the misperception is that it's all about the profits. Hygienists have to produce a certain number. Doctors have to produce a certain number. It's not. It really is about improving processes and improving, at the end of the day, the patient experience and improving oral health for all patients. When you have that discipline in looking at in depth the things that make a dental practice successful, and you do that at scale, good things happen. Patients are satisfied, they're able to afford the treatment. More DSOs are bringing more patients into the mix. So I really encourage, like Tammy said, open welcome them with open arms, learn from them, talk to somebody in the industry, because you never know, there might be an opportunity for you to participate in it, but also to learn from them on what they're doing to solve some of the issues that we face in a dental practice. So those are my comments about that.
Thank you.
Question?
Not yet.
Well, what I would say at this point is the first point of information everybody needs to know is, regardless, a lot of people try to, like Tammy said, there's a lot of misinformation. They try to pass judgment. They think DSOs are a certain way, and often it's a huge misperception. But regardless of that, there's a great evolution and consolidation going on in the marketplace right now. And when I speak on this all over the country, I say, I'm not passing judgment one way or the other. I'm just educating you. It is happening. The market penetration's 35% right now. In 10 years, it's probably going to be 70%. So the first thing you have to understand, whether you're a fan or you don't know about it or not, or even if you're a critic, it's happening, and that is the wave of the future, and there's not anything that anybody's going to be able to do to stop the consolidation. With that, I would say that it is true that 25 years ago, long time ago, DSOs had some compliance issues. That was generation 1.0. We're on generation 3.0. Generation 3.0 gets along wonderfully with their affiliated doctors, follows all the rules and regulations, puts patients in the seat. So what you end up having, and has an amazing culture, so what you end up having is a situation where you've got an organization that provides non-clinical support services at a level that a doctor-founded single or group practice couldn't imagine. Elijah, I'm getting ready to teach this course called The Business of Dentistry at a dental school. We're going to announce that soon. And I always go to the room and I say, how many courses did you take in dental school on how to negotiate with your landlord? It's like 0. How many courses, maybe with mine it'll be 1 now, but I'll ask them, how many courses did you take that taught you marketing? How many courses did you take at how to negotiate with Henry Schein or Patterson as to what your supplies are going to cost? How many courses did you take as to be the HR person, to hire people, fire people, set their salaries, negotiate? So the DSO executes these things at a level that can't be imagined at the practice level. And now that we're in generation 3 that follows all the rules and regulations, you end up in a situation where from a non-clinical support standpoint, you have access to resources you never would have thought, MBAs, all sorts of talented individuals. And what we find is at the clinical level, you build a better mousetrap. If you don't have to hire, fire employees, if you don't have to negotiate with your landlord, negotiate about reimbursement rates, you can take a look at your clinical practices and say, wow, why are we doing it this way? The reason you're doing it this way is you never had time to do it any other way. Now that all the non-clinical functions are taken care of, you can streamline the clinical operations. So Elijah, you end up in a situation where the non-clinical operations are streamlined, all sorts of economies of scale are being accomplished, and then the clinical functions get streamlined, and you get a world-class organization. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Thank you.
What I would add is DSO in general is just a support entity. It's the management firm that helps provide administrative services to the dental practice. Brian has worked with owners that have 1 location that is structured to DSO. You've worked with the biggest in the nation. If you've seen 1 DSO, you've seen 1 DSO. That's said all the time, and that couldn't be truer. And there's no such thing as all solos are good, all groups are bad. There are good solos, there are good groups. There are bad solos, bad groups. And oftentimes, it's just misalignment with the associate dentist and that specific group, right? No one bats 1,000 in this industry. I would challenge any of you to find me someone that does, because they're lying to you. And at the end of the day, it really is about choosing your target avatar, not just patient-based, but employee-based, both clinical and non-clinical. Like, do you really know who should be on your roster? Or did you just opportunistically hire someone and they've been with you for X amount of years? And is there a career path for them? Did you align their personal, professional, and financial goals with the growth goals of the business? Something as simple as that on your one-on-ones, if you have one-on-ones, is a game changer. That's gonna prevent someone from leaving your organization for $2 an hour more across the street, because you actually care about them and their personal and professional goals, not just you as the owner, right? Because you're going to be fine no matter what, typically, compared to the rest of the team. And so when they know that you care about them, then they start to care about you. It's reciprocal, but it has to start with you as the owner.
Knowing that it is important for attendees to expand their knowledge, can you share with us what is your experience with common misunderstandings about the DSO model? I'll start with you, Darren.
I kind of reiterate what Brian said, that they think that the DSO is giving clinical guidance to the actual providers. And that just couldn't be truer. I mean, that is a big, I don't think there's one DSO I know out there that tolerates that. That's a fireable offense. They don't care if you're the CEO of the group. There's a board of directors that manages the CEO. So I would say that's first and foremost, is if anything, DSOs have more compliance and rules and regulations than a solo practice would.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest misconception about DSOs is that the quality of care is higher statistically under the DSO model than it is in a solo or a group practice that's unaffiliated. Now, can you find some DSO somewhere that did a bad job? Of course you can. You can't speak for the whole industry, but statistically across the industry, the DSOs provide higher quality of care. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. If you're a solo dentist and you're doing a lousy job, who is policing you? Nobody. I mean, I guess if you kill somebody, the dental board will come after you. But what if you're just doing a lousy job? You're not killing somebody, but you're just overall a sloppy dentist. Nobody's policing you. Same thing if you're a group. The owner might get busy. You got an owner and say 2 or 3 associates. That owner probably doesn't have a robust world-class compliance system. The owner does the best they can. The associates do the best they can. And if somebody's doing a lousy job, they do a lousy job. The way it works in a DSO is they often have software. A mall participates in this that captures metrics, and they see how you're doing. And if statistically it looks like you're doing too much of a certain procedure, or statistically you're redoing a procedure, or statistically something doesn't add up, somebody comes and speaks to you. They say, well, look, we've looked at the last 100 patients you're treating, and how come everything you're doing is, I don't know, a crown or something else? This doesn't seem right to us. Maybe it's a statistical anomaly, or maybe you're not doing something right, but there's going to be direct intervention. And if it's a real bad apple, you're fired and you're out of there. If it's something where you need some coaching, the DSO will arrange for you to get training, coaching, and other things, so that, if you're maybe a little bit off your game clinically, you're not going to go very long in a DSO model before somebody comes to speak to you. Whereas the doctor-owned solo offices or groups, there's nobody watching that, and I'm not in any way denigrating the wonderfully talented solo dentists that I'm sure are out here. I mean, if you're talented, that's really, really good. But if you run into a problem and you're not, there's nobody policing you. So statistically, the biggest misnomer is the DSO industry has a higher quality of clinical care industry-wide than the dentist-owned entities.
Thank you.
My perspective on this is, I come from a finance background. I was CPA in this field. And there's a perception that the Wall Street guys, the private equity guys, the spreadsheet guys are running the business, and doctors are not. It's so not true. Right? I sit on boards of several DSOs that are emerging, and we have sit down and looked at how the core values of the DSO are being adhered to by everybody. And recently I was at a DSO that's being formed recently. There's 25 offices, and we redefined our core values as we are for everybody, and we are going to treat people with respect and kindness and compassion and dignity. And these core values are being formulated in DSO 3.0. This is what's going on, that they are figuring out how to do things right, where you're putting people first. Right? One of the DSOs I'm a board member of recently hired the retired HR director for Chick-Fil-A to figure out how to improve the patient experience, because Chick-fil-A does it right. No matter how many people are in the line, you're gonna get your sandwich in like 5 minutes, right? No matter how many cars are there, they figured it out. So what the DSOs, there's a perception that it's all economics driven. Yes, everybody wants to make money, but really I would more so than often, especially after the pandemic, I have seen the DSOs really focus on what's important. And really they're focused on really delivering the best possible clinical care. Yes, they do want to make money. They want to negotiate better prices with vendors and whoever it is. But there is nobody talking about, we just want to make more money. And that's a misnomer that I think needs to be addressed really well.
Yeah, so maybe I can just add a few examples because you all have brought up some really good things. And being a clinician who's sitting here on this panel, also having previously served as the compliance officer in an organization, I think you all hit on the things that are really important, right? That we want to dispel the myths around. Because, when you have a large organization, and one of you talked about, scaling things. For example, we use an LMS system to make sure that, all of our employees come on board, they're onboarded in a way that, they're getting this information that is oftentimes required by individual states. We operate support practices in over 30 states, and each state is a little bit different, right? Even scope of practice. But you have resources within the organization that help to answer any questions that come up there. There are certain requirements for employees, things they have to be trained in, information they have to have access to, all of those things. Amal, I think you talked about, the kind of navigating through the pandemic, and having been in that role at that time, as we were navigating through it, I can tell you it was a moment of great pride for us in the organization to know that we were supporting our employees, we were communicating with them, we were doing a lot of the work on the back side to make sure that our teams were coming back feeling safe, our patients were going to get that same feeling. But I do think those systems are really important. As a dental hygienist, when I'm coaching teams, I am referring to the standards for clinical dental hygiene practice, because those are the standards that we commit to as clinicians. And so, we don't have to make the things up, so to speak, because the standards are out there. They're already out there, so we're building systems to better support and implement those standards that are already created within our profession.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and start with you for this question as well. And if the people that are in the back, please come to the front, and thank you so much for joining us. How are the DSOs utilizing and leveraging technology to grow and scale their businesses?
Repeat the first part of that.
How are DSOs utilizing and leveraging technology to grow and scale their business?
So I know you're going to have some good stuff to talk about here. I think that, when you look at technology in terms of those things that help us create better access for our patients, efficiencies being built in those operational systems, whether it's practice management software, things that, are implemented into practice management software. Quite honestly, I think we're just on the tip of the iceberg, and I love it that you're going to answer this question next, because I think we're just starting to see that. I mean, I started practicing in 1987. It was very different back then, and the pace of change, I think specific to technology, is one that we will be able to support in a really important, impactful way, because we have that scale for training also.
Now, I run a technology company, so I have a little more
Get
perspective.
Up and leave. There's not going to be any time left.
Putting this, but technology by itself is not the solution. Technology is the catalyst, and that allows us to see things that we didn't see before. There is a huge movement in technology in the DSO industry, especially to understand the metrics beyond just data. Right? I talk a lot about what is information versus insight versus intelligence, and how do you convert information into insight? How do you convert insight into intelligence? And how do you convert intelligence into action? So that continuum is happening, right? We're going from descriptive analytics, which what happened in the past, to predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics, preemptive analytics. That's the continuum that the industry is going in. The biggest thing that's happening in besides that, there's 3D printing happening. It's pretty amazing. We have a client, Brian and I together sit on that board where they are 3D printing teeth. 3D printing teeth. It's fascinating. Artificial intelligence on two sides is important. One is, in our space, is natural language processing, which allows you to elevate the patient experience on the phone by analyzing the phone calls and understanding where the issues are. That's a huge accelerator in terms of new patient acquisition. But on the other side, AI, in the computer vision side, where AI is serving as a way to help dentists diagnose better. by looking at images and looking at scans. There's AI programs made by companies like Overjet and Pearl and Denti, where you scan all the X-rays and they say, "Oh my God, you found 500 root canals you should have done." Right? It's fascinating where it's going, and I think technology is going to continue accelerating the pace at which we acquire patients, retain patients, treatment presented, all that stuff, and you have to embrace it. There's no other choice, because it's going to come like a tsunami, and you don't want to be behind the 8 ball when it comes to adopting of technology. So I could go on, but I'm going to let these guys answer too.
Just amazing stuff out there, okay? There's obviously artificial intelligence that reads X-rays for caries and dental disease better at a higher rate than the actual dentist looking at it. There's artificial intelligence out there that will screen your phone calls and make sure that the people in your call center are doing their job. There's big data stuff. There's companies out there like DM Score that will look at what you're doing and rate you, just like a FICO score. They'll tell you how your marketing presence looks and what you can do to improve it. There's revenue cycle management companies out there that will say you're only capturing 78% of all the insurance dollars you need to collect. How about if we capture 100%? And by the way, it's taking you 73 days to get paid. How about if we get you paid in like 38 days? So there's all sorts of amazing stuff out there that can really, really impact. There's companies out there that'll do amazing text technology for patient retention. There's companies out there that will just all kinds of metrics, things like Jarvis Analytics that they'll look at and they'll capture, your dashboard. And with the press of a button, if you've got 5 or 6 practices, it'll give you metrics on all those things. You want to buy a practice, it'll capture the metrics of those practices and tell you what you're buying. And, the DSO model provides great access to these technologies, but even if you're not affiliated with the DSO, for, pretty modest and affordable subscription fees, Elijah, you can get access to some of this amazing technology that's hitting the marketplace.
Thank you.
Yeah, what doesn't get measured doesn't get done at the end of the day. And so you wouldn't drive your vehicle without a dashboard. And the challenge is creating, if you're a solo practice, working with a vendor if you don't do it yourself, on a dashboard that is, to Amal's point, actionable. Because it makes no sense in having this fancy widget that no one takes the information and then implements change management. So that's the one thing I'd say is, regardless of whether you're one location or greater, make sure that the vendors you're using, you're getting some type of accountability reporting and that it is actionable.
Elijah, I just want to make one comment, because you reminded me in saying that too. As you mentioned earlier, some of us were at the ADSO meeting and they had a futurist speak. And one of Nancy's favorite things that, to me, that she said was, we can focus on protecting the past or we can create the future. And I think when we talk about technology, that's just such a great example of, you don't want to get caught behind the tsunami.
All right, last question. This will be a quick one. How is private equity changing the world of dentistry? We'll start with you, Tammy.
Actually, I'll pass it off to Brian. Probably has the best perspective first on this one.
Well, private equity is creating an environment where there's once-in-a-generation returns on investment. What I always say, and I know we got to move quick because we don't have a lot of time. Right now, if private equity wasn't involved, the entire audience you could sell your dental organization to would be other licensed dentists in the state where you do business. The creation of the DSO model has allowed you now to take bids on your organization from the world. Anybody in the world that's got an investor, private equity fund, family fund, anybody can bid on your practice and buy it. And what it's created is, instead of a very, very tiny market for your practice consisting only of dentists licensed in your jurisdiction, now anybody in the world can bid on your practice, and it's creating a once-in-a-generation opportunity to maximize the value of your dental organization. That's how private equity has changed it.
Thank you. Come on.
In my experience in private equity, it's different than Brian's, because Brian handles them from a M&A standpoint. I handle them from the perspective of marketing and data. And they have this incredible desire and appetite to understand data in a way that you've never seen before. Yes, they love spreadsheets, absolutely. They're very good at it. But they're able to uncover things that you normally wouldn't see. So they're maniacal about understanding data, measuring the right things, and being able to find the levers that exact levers that you can pull to take the organization to the next level. It's fantastic. It's one of my best experiences in dealing with private equity. Is they ask all the right questions. And as Albert Einstein always said, right, if I could figure out what questions to ask for, I wouldn't have to worry about answers, right? And that's what private equity does for me personally when I deal with them on a very routine basis, because they own our clients or they have big investments in our clients, and they'll say, hey, Amol, tell us this, to give me a ratio of this customer acquisition cost and divide that by the lifetime value of the patient, and I want to make sure that ratio is between 3.5 to 4. Right? Because they know if it's in the right formula, they know we're getting the right patients in the right chair at the right time at the right production per hour, and everything is becoming right. So yes, they have focus on data, but that intense focus allows them to really tweak the levers to kind of achieve optimal growth.
Thank you. Darren, last one.
Private equity is not for everyone. I think there's a big misnomer where, hey, when debt financing through my bank dries up, I'm going to make the jump to private equity right away. They're typically not going to take a look at you until you're about 5 million in EBITDA, meaning typically about 20 million or more in top line. Typically. There are exceptions to the rule. Brian, Amal, and I know a lot of organizations that have transacted with private equity that they didn't go with the highest bid because they went with the most aligned private equity group. Remember, private equity is in the business of making money. They don't pull any punches on that. They're in business to transact and then get a return on their investment. They've always been that way. They always will be that way, but they're not all created equally. So you want to make sure that, just like any vendor relationship, go on a lot of dates before you get married, because if you just see one, you've just seen one. And typically, they're going to have another capital event every 5 years. So the one you start with will most definitely not be the one you end up with. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you, guys. Give it up for our DSO panel.